Okay.
Okay, we're locking in.
Locked and loaded.
Locked and loaded. Let's do it.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Through Her Eyes podcast. My name's Olivia.
And I'm Malia.
And we wrote a book together, a memoir, mother and daughter perspectives on love, loss, grief, faith, purpose, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And so this podcast is diving into each chapter and each prompt and topic of our new book.
Yay! So today we're going to be diving into one of our topics, the first topic of this podcast, which we're going to talk about our childhood.
Childhoods and the difference in childhood. So
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s, was born in 79.
Crazy.
Grew up in the 80s. I know. It's like I grew up before Google was born.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And you grew up in the...
I grew up in the tech age, or as
2000s?
things were, the 2000s, as stuff was starting to develop, because YouTube came out like a little bit after I was born, like 2006, 2005.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was in the iPhones and the iPods, all those iPads, all those things were being developed and produced as I was being born. So I grew up with all the tech.
So let's have a conversation.
It's hard.
So in my day, back in my time, we didn't have any technology. I remember when Nintendo first came out, it was like that was the big thing. And but how has technology influenced how you perceive the world growing up?
I think having technology is such a vulnerable, feels like the wrong word, but just it's so revealing in both positive and negative lights. I have access to so much of the world that you didn't have access to. Like, I can talk to anybody, I can see photos from anywhere in the world, like I am exposed to all of it. But at the same time, I'm getting filtered in all of this stuff about society that maybe I shouldn't know or shouldn't know yet. And having access to other people's, not privacy, but just getting to talk to other people, all of that stuff is very revealing and exposing. And so it's been interesting to navigate like social media. I remember wanting it so bad.
I remember you wanting it so bad.
Please give me Instagram, Mom, please. But then I got Instagram, and it's very much a conscious thing of, well, what do I post, and what will they think, and I don't have that many likes, and all that things. Where in your day there wasn't a feeling of, I need to have this post on this day, I need to have this many likes, and I don't have this many followers, or they're an influencer. Like, there was none of that mental like thought process that we now have to navigate. Even if you're not on social media, you're still like, we're surrounded by it, which you didn't have to.
I didn't have to, but as a mom, that was like the big thing. When I talk to people about motherhood and how it gets easier, I'm like, no, it actually gets harder. It gets very different. And so instead of, I think when I was growing up, my parents having to protect us from the weird person walking down the street, or like, don't, be aware of your surroundings when you're at the park. And we walked everywhere. We did everything.
That's crazy.
And being mindful of whose home you're in, that sort of thing. Well, anyone and everyone across the world can come into my home through your device. Yeah. So I'm protecting you from anyone and everyone that isn't even physically here. And I remember a sleepover you had. I don't know if you remember this, but where a bunch of girls came over, and I wasn't allowing you you didn't have an iPad or like anything like that, but other girls did. And brought them over. And then when it was lights out time, or time to like shut off the phones or whatever, that girl still had her iPad.
Oh my gosh.
And pulled up a whole bunch of crazy stuff in my home, in my basement. And I'm upstairs asleep thinking, y'all are little girls and you're just downstairs hanging out.
When was this?
It was a birthday party.
Well, I had so many sleepover birthday parties.
I know.
Every year.
But I think that's the hardest thing, and feeling like as a parent, I couldn't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be, as much as you have parental controls on devices and things, I can't be watching over your shoulder at all times.
Oh yeah.
And so there was this big need to instill values and principles and rules, but also for you to understand why those rules were in place, so that when you got to an age where you're now off doing your own thing, you're in high school driving, you know, whatever, I can't be there, and I just have to pray that you're making the best decisions based off of what I've placed in you.
That's a crazy, just the things that I've been exposed to in my life because of technology. And as a mom who grew up in an age with no technology, what was that like for me? Well, and Gabe, but just having us as kids, me being your first child, but also growing up in an age where you didn't, there's no experience in that.
There's no experience and knowledge. I think one of the big things that I experience, because I think we all do, but not nearly to the same level as you, is societal pressures on how you look.
Yeah.
I had that for sure. And we dive into this, we'll talk about being a Black woman, we talk about race, racism,
all that,
and those sorts of things. But the only thing that I could experience was what I saw on TV through commercials, what I saw at the store, and what I experienced at school. And most of my childhood, I was homeschooled.
Wow.
So that was kind of sheltered and kind of cut off too. So I knew, being dark skinned, that wasn't pretty, and it wasn't desired and desirable without social media, without technology, without YouTube, without the videos, without that influence.
And that all brings it all in at a much closer, bigger level.
Higher rate, more intensity, heavier,
more exposure.
More exposure. So that was one thing that was totally different. And the other thing too is growing up, if friends, and I did experience this in high school a little bit, where girls that I was friends with would like sneak off and go do things without me.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't know about it unless I saw it. Or unless someone else saw it and told me, which was rare.
Yeah.
So I remember this girl that I ate lunch with like every day, a couple girls every day, and we would meet at this person's locker every, you know, whatever period, and we would go and we'd have lunch like
every day.
And one time I remember getting to the locker and being like, where's everybody? And I saw them running out the building to their car. And I was just like, that's weird. We didn't have cell phones, so it's not like I could, you know, but I saw it. But with you, you were able to just go on Instagram and see people doing all of the things without you.
It was the COVID year, and Snapchat was our only way to talk because we couldn't see each other, which made technology for my generation so much worse, because we already use technology, and then that was our only way to use technology, so now we can't look anywhere else. But I got a Snapchat of my 3 best friends hanging out during COVID without me. And it wasn't a story that everyone could see. They sent it to me directly.
That's evil.
Which I will never know. I still don't know whether that was intentional or not, or whether they were just sending back streaks to everybody, and I was just one of those people. But streaks, I got it.
I don't know how Snapchat works.
You send them every day. But it was sent directly to my phone. It was a message to me of the 3 of them having a picnic. And I was in the house during COVID, trying to stay in the house when that was a whole thing of just like, Mom, I want to go and see my friends, when there was a whole pandemic.
Right.
And then getting that message, because they all lived on the other side of town, but seeing that and not having to go in that area, but just brought to me in my room, in my home, of me being left out.
Well, it's interesting too, because the notion of FOMO has always, and if y'all don't know, because I had to Google that back in the day, fear of missing out.
I have it so bad.
Always existed,
always,
but at this level.
And social media made it.
Social media, for me even. There was a situation recently where I'm just like, why is everybody I know at this thing? Everybody I know is at this thing. And I'm sitting there like scrolling through, but I can't look away. Like, I should have just put my phone down and been like, look, they're doing this thing. I'm going to be present in it. But no, I went through the rabbit hole of like every video, every photo of, I'm like, why is everybody I know at this event?
It's so toxic just because if y'all don't know me, I'm an introvert. Like
I'm an introvert too.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my
gosh. I don't like parties. I don't talk much with people that I don't know. I can very much be in my shell, and my battery will die very quickly. but it comes to a point with FOMO that I'll see my friends doing something else. I'll be over here and they'll be over there, and I will willingly put myself in a situation where I'm uncomfortable because of FOMO. Like even this past Thanksgiving break, I was in one part of the lobby. We were in the same room. Everyone else was in the kitchen cooking the Thanksgiving, like Friendsgiving meal. And I was by myself, and it freaked me out. And I was comfortable on the couch. Thanksgiving.
And you're comfortable by yourself.
I'm comfortable by myself. I love being by myself.
You in a book. You're like,
ooh, in my room with my blankets. But they were all talking in the kitchen, and I willingly brought my drink and awkwardly stood in the kitchen with them because I was the fear of missing out when I was perfectly fine by my own. So it's been a very just toxic rabbit hole of just like wanting to protect my peace and my space, but also wanting so badly to fit in that I will willingly make myself and drain myself quicker just to be a part of the most tiniest of events that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. And it's like,
one thing I remember about you being a child, because now you're a grown woman.
Oh my gosh.
She's a grown woman. I can do whatever you want. Not ever. Not everything. You can't do anything you want. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I'd rather stay here.
You're like 22.
I'm like not.
You're 22.
At the time of this podcast, I am still 21.
In a week, 2.5 weeks, you will be 22.
Anyways.
But one thing that I do remember you growing up, and this is like, has helped me in my own being authentic. Yeah. And I talk about authenticity all the time. Like that's my big topic. That's what I study and write about. When you were in your, like, I was about to say like 6, 7, but it's like Malia from the womb, like literally
from the get-go.
From the get-go, from like age 1, 2, 3, all the way up to probably 10.
That was right before middle school.
Right before middle school. Yeah. Malia, and the word that I would use for you is, and Gabe, I guess, is muchness. Like, Malia was so much, the muchness, but in a very good way. And I hate, especially when women are deemed too much, too emotional, too dramatic, too expressive, too sensitive, too talkative, too quiet, too shy, too, all of these things. But you had a very muchness that I admired as your mom about you, and a courage and confidence in being Malia and screwing the world.
I was Malia like
to your core,
so much.
like so outwardly Malia, from the way you dressed to the way you walked, danced, talked. Like we'd be in the grocery store and your favorite, it wouldn't even be your favorite song, just a song would come on and you're just like, and then I saw a switch happen right about middle school where the Malia, the authenticity, the courage, the braveness, the confidence, all of that stuff just dwindled right before my eyes almost overnight.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason I block out majority of middle school. Like if I sit here and try to think about middle school, there's very few things I'm gonna get teary. If y'all have seen Inside Out 2 with anxiety, we saw that together as just like we're gonna go and see we bawled our eyes out. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, please invest in that time. But I watched myself, like part of me die while I watched that movie. I
watched part of you die during middle school.
Which is when it happened. I got to see, I've never fully understood that, but watching the anxiety attack that Riley had in the movie, I watched what happened to me in middle school. And there's so many things that happened in middle school, which I will get into, but just those were the exact comments that I got told. Malia, you're too much. Malia, you're annoying. Malia, stop dancing in the line while we're trying to play kickball. Yeah. Which the song was on. It wasn't my turn for kickball. What else was I supposed to do, first of all? But told I was too much. And one of the things, even girls in my church that would remember the first impression about me was that I always raised my hand in Sunday school. And I raised my hand too much. And I became so self-conscious of what I wore, of when I spoke, of who I was speaking to. Like middle school drained
the life
it drained
the joy,
the life out of me.
Quirkiness.
It is in me, but how I explain it to people is back during that time, if there was a song on and we were do you remember the Oklahoma reunion? Mm-hmm. And there would be a song on and there was a dance floor and there was nobody on that floor. No one was even looking at the floor. You know who was on that floor?
Oh yeah.
Booking it and asking my mom if I can stay longer to dance, and there was no one else on the floor.
But there was like 100 people in that room.
Oh my gosh, and I didn't care. I don't care if I knew them, if I didn't know them, and currently, if I was in that same situation, if we were if
anybody, like I don't know anyone who would run to a dance floor by themselves, knowing that no one's going to join them.
I can't stress this enough over my dead body. Because when I was that age, there was no overthinking going in my body, and now I overthink every second of my day.
And I think that's normal. It's sad. It's natural. I think we've all kind of gone through that. And moms, I think you've probably all seen your kids go through that shift and change of them just being so outwardly themselves to then kind of coming to a shell. I think the big thing that I learned from you is, and I don't know if you remember this, but then fast forward, probably in high school, and something that I was going through or dealing with, and you were like, Mom, you need to just be you and do you, regardless of what other people think. I know. And I was just like, you're so right, because I poured into you that message. Yeah. And I kept reiterating that message and thinking that you're not listening and hearing because you stopped doing that. But then right when I needed it, you flipped around and you were like, what are you doing? Like, what is wrong with you? You are a bad, get it together. Yeah, get it together, Mom. Like, come on. And that is the word I needed, because coming from you being just so influential in my life. Yeah. And then also being like, my daughter is literally telling me the words I told her. How am I walking in life and not walking in the shoes and the way that I told you to? Like, that's a little hypocritical. That's a lot hypocritical. And so someone else could tell me that, but I had to hear it from you in that moment.
Well, on the flip side is, I'm still that quirky me, but not to the extent I was. A lot of walls have to be broken down with people for me to be like that. And even in public spaces, I can't, because I think be you, but then all the barriers of like, what if someone's watching? What if someone's going to say something? What if someone doesn't like it? Like, it's all those things. Mm-hmm. However, I am me with you all the time.
We are the most authentically ourselves when we're together, which is so amazing. And I do think though, that as I get older and women that I know, as we get older, we start to slowly revert back to that. Yeah. Not to the same 10-year-old girl, but to the same freedom.
Yeah. And having you to have that space, like, being my mom and just all the things have been so amazing, but being able to know that when I come home from school or whenever I'm around you, I can truly be me, and that overthinking goes away and the middle school era goes away, and younger me returns when I'm with you more than ever when I'm with other people. So as much as middle school, like, darn you, like, it's just so frustrating what happened to younger me, and I will always, my heart breaks for younger me and where she went, but she comes back out most with you, which I'm so grateful for, which is why I tell my college friends I cannot wait to go home, and they don't understand it because they know me, and I can act goofy if you know me. I'm able to open my walls up a little quicker as I've in this last couple of years, but I get to come home to me when I'm with you. Aww. Like, truly, like, they see a little bit of goof in me, like 40%, you see 95%, if not 100%. Like, I'm truly fully back to me in this kitchen. These walls have seen.
Oh my, this apartment,
because middle school was just such, which we were also talking about the other day with childhood, is when we saw our blackness for the first time, which was also in our childhood, which is also middle school for me. Other part of childhood that we have very different but similar thoughts on is that we were both I'm the oldest daughter and only daughter in my gaggle of siblings.
I'm the oldest of 8 girls, and for the most part, oldest of all the kids. old soul, oldest.
Soul. So just coming off of in a quicker way, I guess, because childhood is childhood, but what being in the family that you were in and being the oldest daughter, the impact that had on you as a girl, as having all your sisters were younger and you had older brothers around you, obviously, like the blackness that's involved in that, like, what, I guess, is your reflection
on blackness?
On blackness, I'm on being the oldest daughter and blackness. We're black.
I think we should probably cut some of that.
We're gonna edit it.
Okay, let's start that over.
Okay.
Do you want me to start it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so one thing we've talked about is the fact that you and I are both the oldest girls in our family. You are the oldest sibling.
I'm the oldest sibling, the only daughter. All of my siblings that are related to me are boys.
And I am the oldest of 8 sisters, and pretty much the oldest, one of the oldest of my family.
Of the Omega clan.
And for me, that looked a lot like, I have this photo of me cooking eggs.
I know exactly which photo we're talking about.
Cooking breakfast with rollers in my hair, like with the apron, looking like mama, like gotta feed these kids. And I was like 10.
Wow.
Making breakfast for all these mouths. So from a young age being kind of like caregiver, helper.
Yeah.
And even there's a span of like the youngest is 12 years younger than me, and just having the younger siblings and kind of raising and caring for them, but also then becoming older, and this pressure I put on myself. This is nothing that anyone has done, but I put the pressure on myself to be a good example and to look out for and take care of the family.
Yeah. And
I don't always do a good job. And then I've even felt in the last several years feeling resentment for that. But it was all me.
Yeah.
I put it on myself. How can I resent you for the expectations that I put on myself?
That's rough. That's similar to mine. I think for being the oldest daughter, there's been a lot of pride in it, but for me there's also a bit resentment for being the oldest daughter. As I grew up in middle school and high school, A's were easy for me. I would get them all the time. It wasn't something I really needed to study for a good bit of school. And so whether intentional or not, it definitely became a thing of, well, Malia's got good grades from my younger brothers. Malia's doing good in school. I got in trouble as a child, but I guess in ways that were more hidden to my brothers. So my brothers also saw me as the child that did no wrong.
Yeah.
The example, which is not a necessarily fun feeling to feel, especially in high school when I started to not get A's and I started to fail. And my shortcomings as a sibling, as a child, starting to get in trouble became more exposed. And so it was really hard on myself to be viewed as the example, but then also, like you said, to kind of let down my siblings in that way. And I've also been the big babysitter in my family. So less so with my younger two, but my youngest brother is 12 years younger than me. And having to watch him and having that expectation that since I'm the oldest daughter, I need to be doing chores. I should be automatically the babysitter, and that's just the oldest responsibility. Like, that's just my role. And to, in some ways, be put in that box of just like, well, that's your duty as the oldest daughter. Like, you're supposed to be happy about it. You're supposed to be just okay with always watching your brothers. It was very frustrating to trying to be seen as anything outside of the example and the babysitter. And I'm the only girl. So I remember we saw Miles when we found out what gender he was, and my face just fell.
Yeah, because you wanted a sister.
I wanted a sister so bad, and I had my stepmom, but in that house, I was the only girl. I was the only girl going to school with my brothers, and for the longest time, I was the only babysitter. But even as I got older into high school and college, where my brothers were old enough to watch the youngest, it was still put on me. And I was the example babysitter, and I was the one who would do everything right. And so,
you should just do everything wrong.
Just sit. I'm gonna mess everything up. Even on this recent vacation, it's just kind of an indirect expectation that, like, oh, the boys are gonna cop an attitude, or the youngest is gonna have an issue, but Malia's not gonna have an issue, which I didn't. But like, it's that expectation that Malia won't get in trouble. Malia's going to listen to direction. And so it's been an honor, but a lot of times through peer pressure, through intentional pressure of the families and the different dynamics of that family relationships, of a burden of for one day can I not watch my siblings? For one day, Malia, how was your day? What's going on with you? Instead of, oh my gosh, the boys are burning down the house. Like, it's been a heavy thing to bear, and I've had to intentionally be grateful that I'm the oldest daughter.
Yes, and I think that there's this different dynamic too of you being at your dad's house.
Oh yeah,
with your brothers, and then being with me.
It's so different.
Gabe is almost 19.
Yeah, there wasn't really. I
so
really
don't have like him. Little.
Oh, I watched him, but like it wasn't the same.
It wasn't. It was different.
And there wasn't a 9-year-old, or even he's currently 9, but like he used to be a lot younger, where there needed to be someone watching. Yeah. I would make me and Gabe breakfast, but it wasn't like, well, yeah, go make you and Gabe breakfast. I just would go heat up sausages. Whoa, crazy! Put out the cereal. But yeah, the daughter dynamic looked a lot different, and Gabe is my only full sibling, so that didn't have a huge influence. But at my dad's house, there's the step siblings and the half siblings, and a blended, very beautiful blended family that I'm so grateful for. But that is where I felt a lot of the oldest daughter pressure, a lot more over there than I did when it was just me, you, and Gabe. Who, not to say that the full sibling thing made anything different, but me and Gabe were also closer in age, and there wasn't as much for me to have to do or show up for, versus being the oldest of 4 siblings. That's just a whole different, like how you were a sibling of so many siblings versus just having 1 or 2 siblings. I'm sure that would have been totally different. Yeah.
So as we wrap up Thoughts on Childhood, this first podcast,
we did it! Yay!
I want to leave everyone with a question, and we could be thinking about this too, is how do we return back to our authentic younger self? And it's not just...
Okay, you're welcoming us in, and then I'll say my name. After coffee.
It's cold.
It's so cold. Freezing. Wait, how cold is yours?
It's freezing.
Feel mine.